Good morning. And this one this morning may annoy some people because I'm going to start talking again about the future of video games and specifically the future of consoles. And the reason I'm talking about that is because Shawn Layden did an interview with Gameinformer yesterday at the time I'm recording this, in which he talks about the future of PlayStation. So he's precisely talking about the future of game consoles. And reading his interview got me thinking, because I've been looking at Xbox fans for a while now, starting to moan about the way Microsoft is moving and the direction of travel for Xbox. And this kind of started way back when we had first Quantum Break being released simultaneously on the PC and Xbox. And since then, we've moved and we've had Game Pass and we've had the new games that Microsoft are releasing being issued on Game Pass at exactly the same time as they're released in the shops or, for digital download. And also they've been made available on PC on the same day as well. So you've got simultaneous release and crossplay with these games. And Microsoft fans, Xbox fans have been looking at this and pointing at Sony and saying, well, look, Sony seem to be a much more committed company to the console. They seem much more interested in pushing forward story-based games, which is true. Their portfolio of story-based games is second to none. But also that they're not so much embracing this service model in the same way that Microsoft are. And, well, on the surface, that may look true. And, I can understand why Microsoft fans and Xbox fans are getting a bit twitchy about this. But I think they're failing to see the bigger picture. And if you fast forward to yesterday with the interview Shawn Layden gave, I think that they need to take stock of what Shawn Layden's actually saying. And I think if you listen carefully to what he's saying, it echoes very much the kind of language that we've been getting from Phil Spencer. And I'm going to quote him in a minute, but before I get to that, I just want to talk about something very briefly. And that is that PlayStation were the first company, or Sony were the first company to allow us to stream. Not Microsoft, Sony. Their PlayStation Now service was released as a streaming service. So they'd already started to embrace this before we even got Xbox Game Pass. If you think about it, Sony have been thinking about this and this service model for some time. So the idea that Microsoft are doing it and Sony aren't doing it is patent nonsense. And so let me just quote what Shawn Layden said in this interview. And it was quite a long interview, and I'll put a link in and you should go and read it because it's very interesting. But he says this in relation to the future of PlayStation and the future of gaming in general. I don't want to put too fine a point on this because I might upset some of the people I work with. But I think effectively we're looking at a kind of post-console world where you can have quality gaming experiences across a variety of technologies. Sure, PS4 and PS4 Pro provide what of course we think is the best gaming experience. But the other consoles out there, be it Switch, Xbox One X or tablets or phones, there are great experiences across all these. What we need to do is recognise all that. We're not little gaming ghettos that are not federated or aligned at all. We're all part of the same gaming community. We just come at it through different doorways. I think the future will be an extension of that metaphor. Your platform is not your hideaway. It's just your doorway to all these other gamer folk. And I think he's spot on. And it echoes, I said this before, but it echoes almost to the word the kind of thing that Phil Spencer has been saying at Xbox. This is the direction of travel. We may not like it as gamers. We may like our little ghettoized console experiences and going to the shop and buying our physical media. But that's not where it's heading. And you've only got to look at, and I've said this so many times now, but you've only got to look at music and movies and TV to see that digital delivery and the rental model, if you like, is where things are heading. And gaming's not going to be any different. The reality is that we are heading to, as Shawn Layden puts it, a post-console world. But the big question is, does that actually matter? If you're getting good quality games and they're for, decent value for money, why would that matter? Why would the actual console matter to you? I come from PC gaming. And all the PC gamers out there have got different rigs with different hardware in, but they still play the same games. Why does it matter what piece of hardware you're playing your games on? Unless you're wedded in some way to that idea of I must have a console. The reality is that we're going to move into an environment where you're going to be able to play your games on many, many devices. And, people got up in arms about the idea that Microsoft were going to try and create this streaming service that would be available on PC and console and phone and whatever else. But I don't think they're looking at the big picture. And I also think that they need to take a step back and look at how long this is going to take, because this is not going to be something that happens overnight. The idea that the console is going to be gone by, next gen? No. In fact, we may still have consoles way down the line. We still have set-top boxes. Even though we've got Netflix that you can watch on your PC, you can watch on your phone, all the rest of it, we've still got set-top boxes. And the way I see this developing, and, I could be completely wrong on this, but I can see gaming broadening out, getting an ever bigger and bigger audience. But most of those people playing video games won't be playing it on console, won't be playing it on a dedicated gaming rig. They'll be playing it on their laptop. They'll be playing it on their phone. They'll be playing it on, whatever it is that they've got in their house or in their pocket. But you'll still have, and I hate this term, but I'm going to use it anyway, you'll still have the hardcore gamers, the enthusiasts that will buy more dedicated hardware, whether it be a gaming PC or maybe a box that they put under their telly. And this is very similar to what we get with music now and what we get with films and TV. You have the guy who just has his TV in his front room and he's happy with that. And he's got a little mini system underneath the telly that he plays his music on. Or even doesn't have that, he's just got a little dock that he uses that he sticks his phone in. Those guys aren't enthusiasts. They still like to listen to a tune now and then. They still like to watch a film now and then, but they're not enthusiasts. The enthusiasts go the extra mile and they buy a dedicated home cinema amp, or they buy a vinyl player, a record deck. And I'm not talking about the £40 record decks that you find in Sainsbury's. I'm talking about, the expensive ones that you get from a dedicated hi-fi emporium, for want of a better way of putting it. And I can see this happening with gaming. It's going to split into the more enthusiast gamers and the bigger audience of people who just like to have a game now and then. And that's no bad thing, because it's going to broaden the environment. It's going to broaden gaming. Why should we, as gamers, hate the idea of gaming becoming bigger? I don't understand. Why would we like to remain in our little ghettos, holding on to our consoles and not wanting anyone else to play? I'm a science fiction fan, and I remember back when if you read science fiction, you were considered a weirdo. But now, everybody's watching science fiction movies and science fiction television. You can't get away from it. Would I rather that everyone was looking at me and thinking I was a weirdo, or would I rather be able to talk to my sister and my neighbour about science fiction and maybe, tell them about some of the literature that's out there that they might want to have a look at? Because surely that's a better environment than having this little ghetto where you sit there and people come in and look at you like you're some freak and then walk out again and go and make themselves a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or whatever. You know, an environment where your mum thinks there's something wrong with you because you're playing video games, or in my case, because you're reading science fiction, although it wasn't my mum, it was my dad, because my mum used to read it as well, but we won't go into that. What I'm talking about here is that I think that some gamers, okay, I can understand why they would be a little bit suspicious of this, and, you know, we can move into a service model and it could get very expensive and it could take away some of the shine of video games. But we are in the process, if you like, at the moment of going through a revolution. Things are changing and things will continue to change. We don't have to like it, but that's just what's going to happen. But as I say, I really don't think that we're going to lose physical media anytime soon. I really don't think that it's going to be all service models and that the consoles are going to disappear and it's all going to be on your phone and you can dock your phone and then maybe, I don't know, attach a controller using Bluetooth. Those things are all going to happen. But I don't think it's going to take away from the more hardcore enthusiast gamer, if you like. We're still going to have these experiences and we will get more of them. As film became more mainstream, we got more films. Not fewer, more. And the more films you get, the more diversity you get, and the more gems you will find in the whole crowd of films that are being made. And this is true of gaming. As we get more and more games made, we'll get more decent games and more games for the enthusiast. We'll also get more dross, but that's just the trade-off. But that's what I think anyway. I think that Shawn Layden, Phil Spencer, all these guys working in the gaming industry know that this is going this way. I think Microsoft just understand it and they've maybe laid the groundwork a bit earlier than Sony have. But they're both heading in this direction. And even Nintendo are heading in this direction. They're looking at moving, well, they already are moving into phones, producing games for phones and tablets. We don't want to be caught up in this idea that, you know, the only place to play is on your console. And if you know, I'm an Xbox fan or I'm a PlayStation fan. I'm more of an Xbox fan than a PlayStation fan, but I'm not going to leave the PlayStation in the shop if I think that it's got good games that I want to play. If I can afford it, I'm going to buy a PlayStation. And that's exactly what I did because it's got fantastic games. So being wedded to a piece of plastic and being wedded to this idea that Microsoft or Sony have to keep doing things the way they've always done things, it's ludicrous. It really is. Things will move forward whether we like it or not. We just have to engage with it and try and make it move forward in a way that is beneficial to all of us and don't let companies take the piss. Because that's the downside that might come out of this is that we end up with a service model that ends up being extremely expensive, or lots of service models that end up being really expensive if you've got all the different companies providing different streaming services and you have to buy them all and it all fragments. That is the downside to this, or one of the downsides to this. But anyway, look, this has been a rambling one. I didn't want to script this or go into it in too much detail. I just wanted to lay out my thoughts because I've seen a lot of people laying out their thoughts and I really do think they're missing the point. And I'm covering ground that I've covered before, but I just think this interview with Shawn Layden just nails it and puts to bed this idea that it's only Microsoft going in this direction. It's not. This is the direction of play for everybody. That's the way I see it anyway. But I might be wrong. And if I am, you know the drill. Let me know in the comments. And if you like this one, do the usual. Give it a thumbs up and that'll help me out. And subscribe as well and hit that bloody bell. Because, YouTube aren't doing us any favours these days. So we need all the help we can get. But anyway, that's me done. I'm going to go and grab myself a cup of tea. And I'll speak to you guys in the next one. Bye.